The views from this park are insane. I always get the opportunity to talk to people about relocating to Albuquerque and what areas people are actually moving to. But more times than not, there's a lot more things that happen in the background after you call these places home. They're more like the safer bets, the areas that have the better schools, better prices, and just cleaner areas overall. But that's not what I'm here to talk about, because although these are great areas, I'm not telling you that you're gonna be wrong for picking one of these areas. After a while, some people tend to tell me that they actually hate their life there. And I'm always talking about how great these areas are, but I've never really talked about some of the negative things you can expect when it comes down to living in some of the top neighborhoods in Albuquerque. So in today's video, I'm gonna go over that. When people relocate to Albuquerque, they always picture this dream lifestyle where they're gonna have the shortest commute to work, open roads, the views, all that stuff, right? Till you wake up Monday morning and all of that just goes out of the window. And this video goes far beyond just the gushy listing descriptions, right? All the charm, coziness, and all that stuff that you're seeing on the internet. This video is actually gonna go over more or less what you can expect in lifestyle. But just to kind of give you a brief overview of what you're looking at when you are moving to Albuquerque, the average sale price right now in April 2026. Gosh, it's almost summertime in 2026. Time is flying by, but you're looking around $383,000. What does that mean for you? Once you buy the house, you're looking a couple of years down the road. Well, the average price of a home goes up about 2% each and every year. Like, that's data. That's not me just fluffing it up. That's something that you can look up yourself. And when you are talking about cost of living, people that are relocating from Texas, Florida, California, Colorado, we're usually anywhere from 10 to 20% less expensive than they are. The number one area that people bring up in conversations throughout the week is going to be the Sandia Heights. And yes, you are going to get the abundance of nature, trails, peace and quiet, all that stuff. But there is a catch-22 when it comes down to living here. Most people don't think about these things. I only know about these things, and I'm letting you know about these things because I experienced these things firsthand. When you do live in the Sandia Heights, you're talking about dealing with more allergies. So if you're super allergic to juniper like I am, you're constantly going to be dealing with this. And that last video we did, if you want more information on the Sandia Heights, you can go back and watch it. But that last video that I did a couple days after, I was just down for the count. I didn't work, I didn't do anything just because I had a super bad allergy attack. You are also going to see that virtually there's no sidewalks throughout this neighborhood. And that can be a bit annoying, especially if you do enjoy walking the dog or an evening walk. I mean, you may overlook it just because of where you're at, but to be honest with you, when you're walking on the road and there's cars passing you by constantly, it doesn't feel so secure like a suburban neighborhood on the west side where they actually got sidewalks. You may also wake up that next Monday morning and realize that you have a 40 to a 45-minute commute to work because you're gonna be dealing with traffic on tramway, and that's really the only real way that you can get to the freeway, and then you're gonna be dealing with traffic on the freeway. So things may move slower, and if you are anticipating a shorter commute to work, this may not work to you. And my people who are relocating from Dallas, Texas, and Florida, this may not seem like a big deal to you, but for some people it is. I know it would be for me. And you also got to think about the altitude and where you're at, right? You're at the basin of the mountain, so the weather might not always be super good. You may deal with more snow, more rain, more wind, and because they don't have sidewalks or real ways of mitigating all that snow and water and stuff, you may run into more puddles, more snow on your driveway, and getting in and out of that just to get onto the streetway may be a pain in the butt. But I can tell you right now that that side of town they tend to take care of first more than anything else, just because they understand this. So there's some trade-offs, right? But if you are looking to relocate to the Sandia Heights just because these things may seem like little to you, you are going to be looking at anywhere from $400,000 to $1 million when it comes down to the home prices. And it varies, right? The more up into the basin you go, the higher the dollar amount goes. And you may also pay more in property taxes. And that's one thing that I tell people is that the closer you live to the mountains or to the river, the more you're gonna pay in taxes. So you may wanna keep that in the back of your mind if you are planning on purchasing a house here. You may also deal with the annoyances of having a septic tank and a well, and sometimes even a propane tank, just depending on how far up into the mountain you are. So there are some trade-offs when you do live in this area, but you gotta remember that you are gonna have a longer commute to work and to the grocery store, and you are gonna deal with more inclement weather and just all those little nuances that come with living in the mountains. Hey, before you go on with the video and discover more about these top areas and the things that people really don't talk about, I wanted to remind you that if this is your first time tuning into the Living in Albuquerque channel, welcome. My name is Eli. Go ahead and hit that subscribe and notification bell down at the bottom. That way you never miss out on any information, new videos about me talking about what Albuquerque is doing and what this city offers. Now, if you are planning on relocating down to Albuquerque, or you already live here and you're just trying to get some more info on different areas or a specific house, that number popping up on the screen is my direct line. As a licensed real estate broker here in the state of New Mexico, I would love to help you find that next place to call home. But if you aren't ready, there's also a free relocation guide down for you in the description to download that will give you some more information on these top areas and price points and all that stuff. But enough about me, let's get back into the video. Now that you got a better idea of the Sandia Heights area, we're gonna talk about one of the most walkable neighborhoods here in Albuquerque, and one of the coolest, just to be honest with you. It's a little bit more urban, so you are gonna have restaurants, coffee shops, and bars, all within walking distance of your house. Nob Hill, with consideration to that walkability thing, walkability is just a totally different conversation here in Albuquerque. You're not talking about 5 minutes down the road, you're talking about 10 to 15. And just because walkability gets super confused when it comes down to Albuquerque, everybody thinks that it's just gonna be short 5-minute walk. It's really not. And you're still gonna need a vehicle. For instance, if you're trying to get to Whole Foods, Smith's, or Costco, it's gonna be anywhere from a 10 to 15-minute drive from your house there in Nob Hill. But there's also another great point that I wanna bring up, and that's the homes in this area. And this isn't meant to scare you away from Nob Hill. I'm just being honest with you. I really want you to know what you're getting yourself into if you do plan to live here, because the homes in this area, they're old, they're outdated. So more times than not, you're gonna be purchasing a project. Yes, you can find a house that has everything done. On the reality of things, when you do purchase a house, 9 times out of 10 in Nob Hill, you are gonna look at a house that needs updated HVAC, plumbing, windows, roofs. Like, there's gonna be houses there that just need a ton of love versus other areas that have newer homes. You gotta remember, this neighborhood was built in like the early 60s and the 70s. And to that point, when you are talking about houses in Nob Hill, you aren't gonna get a big lot. There is some cases where you can get a bigger lot, but you're gonna be looking closer to El Toro Park and those neighborhoods. But for the majority in Nob Hill, the lot sizes are reduced, they're smaller. It feels suburban, but it's not. I'll just be honest with you, it's totally urban in that area. So with that comes more traffic, more noise, more people walking through your neighborhoods, and that can really turn somebody off. And don't get me wrong, I love Nob Hill, but I would never consider moving down there because the only times that I'm usually ever there is for coffee, the restaurants, or the boutiques that they have in the area. People that tend to move there because of the historic charm or the walkability usually don't have kids like me. And I'll just be honest with you, that area is so active. There's always something going on that for those folks who do need that thing to do on the weekend or they want more entertainment, this area works out just fine. But for somebody like me, who's majority of the time a homebody, after work, I just want to come home just a peace of quiet and just be secure that my kids can play in the street without having to worry about all the traffic. I don't know. Nob Hill just doesn't make sense for me. I love talking about urban areas and the differences here in Albuquerque of what people expect when it comes down to urban, because when we are talking about the urbanness of Albuquerque, it feels very spread out. Like the Northeast is kind of urban, some parts on the west side get a little urban, but Nob Hill just really encapsulates that as one of the best areas to paint the picture of urbanness here in Albuquerque. But let's flip the switch a little bit and talk about the North Valley. And this is for the people who are looking for a bigger yard, you potentially want a bigger house, or you just want to live closer to the river. The North Valley offers all of this, right? But one thing that people tend to forget is with more land, trees, grass, irrigation ditches, that this is all your responsibility and you have to maintain it. People don't usually account for those things, and it really can hurt somebody who lives a busier lifestyle or just isn't really home from time to time, right? You're constantly working, or maybe you're retired and you're just like, I don't want to have to maintain all this stuff. And this usually affects the people that are relocating from suburban areas. They never anticipated that their house would be another career, right? Because maintaining a yard is not easy. And if you got grass, you got trees, maybe you live somewhere next to a ditch that you're responsible for, you're gonna have to take care of all these things yourself. It's not gonna be anybody else's responsibility but yours. But aside from the houses in that area, there's also something that you gotta know is that when you are looking to buy a house in the North Valley, prices can really range. You're talking about purchasing a house for $500,000 and even sometimes in the millions. And it all depends on what pocket you're looking in the North Valley, because if you're looking somewhere closer to Rio Grande, yes, of course the houses are gonna be a little bit older and more expensive. But if you're looking a little bit more east on the other side of Rio Grande, then you can find yourself something that's totally suitable. And again, it's one of those areas where the houses are old, so you may run into more projects than you anticipated. Not always the case, but more times than not. And people greatly underestimate how much of an equestrian neighborhood this is. You're probably gonna have a neighbor with some animals or some horses, and it's crazy to see how the neighborhood is built around that, right? There's trails for all this, there's signs everywhere. So if you're somebody that doesn't want to have to hear the horses or chickens or whatever early in the morning, then you're gonna be in for a rude awakening. And the reality of commuting there in the North Valley isn't terrible. I'll just be honest with you. If you have to travel 15 to 20 minutes just to get to the grocery store, you're gonna find out that it's actually pretty worth it because it feels disconnected. The North Valley, there's just so much abundance of nature and trees that you really don't see like all the city buildings or a ton of people, to be honest with you, just because most people that live in this area have lived here for generations and they're a little bit older, right? So for them to get out of their house, they're doing that during the day. They're not out causing a ruckus. And gosh, like being able to just walk to the Rio Grande is just something worth paying a little bit more for. On the subject of commutes, and I just gotta be honest with you, this next area that I'm gonna be talking about, that is the biggest problem that I hear from people is that they have to drive everywhere. And the Northeast Heights is an awesome area because it seems like it's stable in its pricing. Not a lot of people are selling their homes. People are staying longer in the Northeast Heights and you're gonna be closer to all the top rated schools. But in return, you're gonna have to drive everywhere. And most people nowadays don't wanna have to drive more than 30 minutes. But what I can tell you is that even though you are on the east side where a majority of the amenities are, you're still gonna have to drive to them because it feels like you're within a suburb of a suburb and it just feels like you're going through a bunch of different neighborhoods and a bunch of different city streets just to get to the grocery store. And that necessarily isn't a terrible thing, right? It can make it super convenient for you to where on your way home after work, maybe you gotta stop by for some groceries. You're gonna hit a grocery store either way, whether you want to or not. So there is some good things with this whole commuting thing. I just know that some people rather not drive so much nowadays to where they want to make their commute shorter. But that's the only downside that I can tell you about living on the Northeast side is that you're virtually gonna have to drive everywhere. Commutes are one thing, but what I can tell you about the Northeast Heights is that if you are planning on living over there, don't try to move next to one of the top rated schools. You're gonna end up paying more for that house because people wanna live next to El Dorado or La Cueva, and people are gonna pay more for those houses because they want their kiddos to go to that school and they want them to have easy commutes themselves. You know, they'll take the pain as a parent and drive a little bit longer to work. That way their kids can go to these top rated schools. So keep that in mind is that with it being a top rated area for schools, more families are moving out to that side of town. So it's gonna be more suburban. You're gonna have kiddos playing in the streets and it's just gonna be that much more family orientated in some areas when it comes down to the whole thing. Do you feel me? Are you starting to get a good idea that Albuquerque offers so much diverse living here that it's not just a rural place, it's not all dirt? Like, come on, people, like, you should know better than this. Come and visit us, check it out. Talking about the next area, and we're gonna cross the river to the west side, and I particularly can talk about this area because this is where I live. I live on the west side. I shop on the west side. Everything that I do is virtually on the west side, except for going to the office because I gotta go to downtown. When we are talking about the west side and Ventana Ranch and Taylor Ranch, you're talking about crossing the dreadful freeway. The river crossing on I-40 is gonna be the death of you. Now, all jokes aside, the pain point for a lot of us West Siders is traveling on the freeway at 5 o'clock. Traveling against the sun beating down in your face, traffic is going 5 miles an hour when you're crossing that river. It's just atrocious. Like, I'll just be honest with you. And that's what a lot of our clients tell us about relocating to the west side because there isn't a ton of ways to cross the river. I think right now you really only have maybe 3 or 4 different ways that you can actually cross the river to the west side. So it really becomes super congested and super tiresome, especially after a long day of work. But you don't always have to cross the river to get your daily essentials. Next to Taylor Ranch and Ventana Ranch is gonna be Cottonwood Mall, Sam's Club, Costco. You got Sprouts down the street. So there's a lot of different options that you can actually utilize when it comes down to getting your daily necessities. But what I will tell you that a lot of people have trouble with is that they don't feel like it's local. They don't feel like it's New Mexico, like that local homegrown vibe. They feel like it's super commercialized. And I'll just be honest with you, it is. There's a lot of commercial buildings and a lot of commercial stores on the west side versus like the east side and the Nob Hills to where you are gonna have more local shopping, farmers markets and all that stuff. And just keep in mind that since the west side is growing, especially in the Ventana Ranch area, as they expand, you are gonna get newer homes, and that comes with the price tag, right? Most new homes on that side of town are going for $450,000 and up. So if it is a budget thing, maybe you move closer to Taylor Ranch where you're gonna get a more established community, tree-lined streets, maybe not the newest and prettiest house, but it definitely matches your budget and your lifestyle choice. So it may really seem that this area is like the it place to be because it's growing. There's different things happening here and more businesses are calling this place home. But what I can tell you is that not everything that glitters is gold, especially with some of the fees that not everybody tells you about. There's some areas on that Ventana Ranch side that do deal with a PID. If you don't know what a PID is, it's a public display of improvement. They're charging you for all the roadways, sidewalks, streetlights, mailboxes, like you name it. And this is a fee that's gonna get tacked on to your monthly mortgage payment that you're never gonna get rid of. Now that you got the idea of what you can expect in some of these top areas, I'm sure you're gonna start asking yourself some specific questions, and they're well-qualified questions. These are things that I ask people on our calls all the time because for us, it's not the house so much that you're looking for, it's the ideal lifestyle that you're anticipating to have when you call Albuquerque home. Whether you're a local, trying to move to a new neighborhood, or you're somebody relocating from a major city, these are important things to ask yourself. And it all revolves around your lifestyle. What are you expecting when you are trying to move to Albuquerque? Or maybe you're a local trying to move to a neighborhood and you already got an idea, but you really didn't think about all these different things that come with living in the Sandia Heights, Northeast Heights, North Valley, so on and so forth. So you gotta ask yourself these questions. Am I a hiker? Am I somebody who wants trails? Do I want an abundance of nature? Do I want to have a bigger lot? Do I not want projects when it comes down to living in my house? Like, what does your lifestyle look like in terms of all this? We can get budgets and sizes of houses, bedrooms, and all that stuff taken care of later, but more importantly, what are you expecting when it comes down to living here? So here's what I recommend. Before you actually pick a place to call home, like before you actually are decided on the house, live your daily life as if you were gonna commute to work from there. What does that look like? Where do you have to go through? Is it a boring commute? Is it a long one? Do you have to deal with traffic? Is there trails and parks relatively pretty close to here? Is there trees? Is there, grocery stores right down the street from me? Do the daily life thing as if you were already living there, and that will answer a ton of questions for you. You also have the flip side of all this. What is also important to you and your family if you're bringing them with you? Do you have kiddos that are still in school? Do you want top-rated schools? Do you not really care your kids are homeschooled? Or are you looking for a specific type of Montessori school? Because all of that is gonna be important as well. And that's where I come in all this, right? Because I understand that if you're relocating from Denver, Colorado, Austin, Texas, Orlando, California, you're gonna have a whole identity shift. And you may not realize it, but I do. Because when you are moving from those major cities down to Albuquerque, things are just gonna feel different. And I wanna make sure that number one, you're ready for it. And number two, that what you're expecting, I can actually help you find. So with all that being said, and making sure that you're choosing the right area for you, your family, yourself, your dog, your cousin, your cat, whoever, want to make sure that you understand the caveats to each one of these neighborhoods because they're the most popular areas for people to move to nowadays, and we're helping people with that. And sometimes we actually help people shift gears into a different area versus living in one because it really doesn't match what they're expecting to get in their new life. And this video isn't necessarily made to be that video that deters you from one neighborhood to the other. It's really just a realness check, right? Giving you the actual things that you can expect from these top neighborhoods that people really don't pay attention to. And we help people with these kinds of things and we have these conversations. So we want to make sure that you know about them. That way you don't run into the same issues a year or two down the road. But if you are looking to relocate down here in the next 6 to 12 months, shoot, even the next year, that number popping up on the screen is my direct line. Call or text me at any time. I'm super excited to chat with you. And if you want some more information, there's a free link in the description down below for you to download a relocation guide. It'll go over all the top areas, give you price points, population count, things to do in those areas, and so much more that you'll feel like you're an expert just like me when it comes down to living in Albuquerque. But I gotta finish up a quick thing here. We're helping a client relocate from California. They're buying an awesome home, Pueblo-style house off of Rio Grande, and we gotta make sure that they are able to move in next Monday. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good weekend. Peace.